A closer look on the state of China's military, large-scale IDF airstrikes in Yemen, and escalations coming from Turkey. This and more on Dangerous Waters. This is the Dangerous Waters podcast, where we dive deep into dangerous waters. I'm your host, Alex, and today's episode is going to be fascinating. First off, we have a very rare and closer look at what is going on with China's military. Every year, there is a new Pentagon report on the state of China's military. We have a lot of implications here, a lot of updates in this department. So let's look at what they found based on this new report. Right off the bat, the executive summary states that China's strategy is to become a global leader by 2049. They are looking to play a role that the US currently does, and in order to do so, they really need to build up their military to the point where they can project power across the globe and secure their interests. They are currently not at this stage yet, but they want to get there by 2049. We also see that by 2027, China wants to be able to have the military power to invade and take over Taiwan. They currently don't believe they are at this stage yet, but they are rapidly developing, creating new ships, and militarizing in order to achieve that potential goal by 2027. Now, whether or not a war actually begins in Taiwan is an entirely different story, but China wants to have the military capabilities to do so if they choose to. Now, this report is quite lengthy. It's 182 pages, and it gives a very comprehensive view of what's going on in China. However, we'll focus on some main details that kind of stand out. First is that China's nuclear warheads stockpile has increased. They're saying that the number exceeds 600 as of mid-2024, and they are rapidly expanding with the hopes of hitting 1,000 by 2030. This is a very large increase considering compared to just last year, they have added another 100 working nuclear warheads to their arsenal, a 20% increase, and they're hoping to get even more by 2030. Interestingly enough, the US did say that they wanted to reach 1,600 or so to match the US and Russia by 2035 last year, but this time they have removed that projection, and they are now saying that times change, the situation is evolving very rapidly, and it's hard to predict what China's future plans are in that long-term department. In terms of missile systems, China has, at least compared to 2023, increased their ICBM count from 350 to 400. They've also significantly increased their medium-range ballistic missile count from 1,000 last year to 1,300 this year, a significant increase. And it goes to show the strategy that China's playing here. They care more about the medium-range ballistic missiles, as these are the ones capable of threatening American interests in the first, second, third island chains around China, so that they can successfully create some kind of deterrence against United States forces. Finally, there is also discussion on how military corruption within the ranks has been causing issues in China's goal of achieving their level of military readiness they want by 2027. The most prominent corruption being from Li Shangfu, China's former defense minister, saying that a lot of corrupt deals happened under his watch, significantly undermining China's real, raw military capabilities. Now, shifting our focus to the Middle East, some major showdowns happened yesterday between the Houthi rebels in Yemen and the Israeli Defense Forces. First, the Houthis launched a ballistic missile into Tel Aviv, which successfully landed and struck a school. No one was killed during the attack, but 5 people were injured as they were running to shelter. This prompted a strong Israeli response against the Houthis, in which they launched airstrikes against Houthi infrastructure, including ports, energy facilities, and also military installations. We've seen wide-scale blackouts in the city of Sana'a, which is Houthis' capital city, as a result. These strikes were actually already planned in advance, with the IDF drawing up plans on how to attack the Houthis. It was only activated because of a go-ahead by the Israeli defense minister. And it really goes to show that this will be one of probably many more attacks against the Houthis. Israel is really at the stage where they've already wiped out the majority of the threats against them from what they say is the quote-unquote axis of evil, and they want to wipe out the final leg, which is the Houthis in Yemen. Once that is done, Iran will have really no more meaningful proxies which are capable of threatening Israeli interests, and that would result in a very strong strategic advantage for the state of Israel. Next up, we have some major provocations coming in from Turkey. Yesterday, I reported that the U.S.-backed rebels and Turkey were entered into a ceasefire agreement that was due to last until the end of the week. However, it seems like Turkey is already breaking this ceasefire by sending in unmanned drones to cause airstrikes on Kurdish land, and at the same time, they are accumulating a massive amount of military buildup on their southern border in the possibility of invading Kurdish lands, while at the same time, their proxies from the SNA, or the Syria National Army, are coming in and they are building up from the west as well. So this is going to be a major showdown. Lines are being drawn, and let's see what goes down. Let's transition to what's going on at home. First, we have a major headline. The Congressional spending bill has undergone another debacle, this time coming in from Elon Musk. I've actually reported about the problems with this bill yesterday, but essentially the bill is filled with a lot of fluff. It has a lot of pork in it. It's not a clean spending bill by any means, but it is a compromise bill which had bipartisan support, which possibly could have passed both houses and reached the president's desk before a government shutdown. However, Elon Musk has come out against the bill in a very vocal fashion, threatening primaries against candidates who supported the bill, and in effect, he has completely tanked the possibility of the bill passing in Congress. Trump is also going along with this. He doesn't want the bill either. It really puts Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House in a very difficult position. He's opted for trying to pass a clean bill instead to make the MAGA side of the Republican Party happier. But it appears that this will not get any support by Democrats. So we'll see what goes on in here. This is really just turning out to be a mess, but a similar mess that we've seen last year as well. Mike Johnson was capable of navigating the waters in the last fiasco. So let's hope that he's able to do this now and we can get a resolution. However, it does appear that the government may have to shut down before we end up with a deal. I know this happens a lot, but unfortunately it is just part of the process, and it's something that has to be done. We've also seen some major negative downturns in the stock market. Specifically, the Dow Jones has hit its first 10-day losing streak in a row since 1974. A very massive implication here. The stock market is not in the position that it once was. We do see that corrective state coming into play. A lot of investors are worried about the future of the economy, about Trump's tariffs, and really also the state of AI demand in general could be on a downturn potentially. We don't really have solid figures for this yet, but Nvidia being the number one company in the world by shareholder value, very important influence in how the stock market moves on a daily basis. But more recently, a lot of what's coming in is because Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, has now said he only plans to cut rates twice next year instead of what was originally thought to be 3 times next year, which means that they do believe inflation will continue to be a problem and that the fundamental issues with the economy have not been solved, which is why investors are sort of panicking and they are potentially pulling out of the market at this point. Now, most likely, as Trump gets into office, by then, the stock market would have recovered already. But we'll see. The stock market really is a reflection of how certain people are about things. If there's uncertainty, which Trump does bring to the table, it could cause people to panic and not know what to do, and that would result in these kinds of market moves. But at the same time, if they are certain, let's say Trump goes into his term and he is able to deliver on the economy, that would be a great boost to the stock market as well. Finally, it looks like we're doing a repeat of COVID. We have the first severe case of bird flu reported in the United States. This was in the state of Louisiana from a person over 65 years old with pre-existing conditions. they were in contact with a infected bird, so the transmission was from animal to human. So far, we have not seen human-to-human transmission yet, but authorities are worried about this and potentially saying that it could happen in the future, especially with the virus being able to mutate rapidly. At the same time, we also have the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who issued a state of emergency for the state of California regarding the bird flu and saying that they will take all of the precautions necessary to prevent the spread of the virus. As of now, the Biden administration does not have plans to deliver a vaccine for humans, but there are vaccines already in circulation for livestock. Let's get into rapid fire news. Our first story is still on the topic of vaccines. Russia recently developed a personalized cancer vaccine using gene therapy, which will cost the country roughly $3,000 per dose, but they are planning on giving it to citizens for free. We don't know about its medical viability as of yet, but we shall see. Teamsters Union, representing roughly 10,000 Amazon employees, started striking against Amazon today, hoping for better wages, benefits, and work conditions. This strike will impact facilities in California, New York, Illinois, and Georgia. Madison, Wisconsin school shooter Natalie Rupnow was in contact with a 20-year-old man in California who also planned his own separate attack on a government facility. He has since been ordered to turn in his weapons under California's red flag laws. And finally, in an 85-14 vote, the annual defense bill authorizing $895 billion in spending has passed Congress. It includes a provision to ban gender-affirming transgender care for children covered in all DOD insurance policies and bans the teaching of critical race theory for service members. With that being said, thank you all for sticking around to the end of today's episode of Dangerous Waters. If you enjoyed, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. As always, I'll see you all in the next one.